Hello everyone, Nathaniel here. Today is the visitation for former Iowa Congressman Leonard Boswell. He served in the Iowa 3rd District when Iowa still had 5 congressional districts. Boswell is from my part of the state. In fact, I went to school with a couple of his grandchildren, and I knew two of his daughters quite well. I met Leonard Boswell in the early 1990s, just as he took office in the U.S. Congress, and I had a really interesting interaction with him. Being a young kid in rural Iowa, I really didn't see so much pride or enjoyment from being from such a small, what I would have thought was an unimportant, inconsequential part of the country. And I told him so. And he stopped me in the library where we were talking, and said, "I know that I know that you think that this area is unimportant and there's little value here because you're young and you're unexperienced and you haven't seen much of the world as of yet." And that was somewhat true. Over the years, working in politics, I actually got started from my meeting with Congressman Boswell because I realized that, wow, he's kind of from the area and he has an important job in D.C. And up until that point, I hung out with politicians. My grandfather knew politicians. I had hung out with Clintons. I've hung out with Bushes. I knew them, but I didn't understand their importance, their significance of who they were, because I didn't care. I was in my bubble. And I think a lot of young people are in their bubbles today as well that are missing some of the opportunities that lie ahead of them. I kept in contact with Congressman Boswell, and I learned a lot. There's a lot to this part of the state. There's a lot of value in the people and the characters of the people who make up this part of the state, and that's who he represented. Republican or Democrat, it doesn't really matter. Everyone here is on the same side. And even though that I knew a lot of the Republicans, because mostly the governors, but my grandfather was friends with the Democrats and the Republicans, and even though we were mostly on the Democratic side, I saw value in our Republican governor, Terry Branstad, through most of this time period, and really didn't have a non-bipartisan theory about me until I got older. And unfortunately, everything's become so partisan that either you're with the left or you're with the right, and you just so much distrust with the others. But that hasn't been, up until recently, part of the Iowa story. And Leonard Boswell represented the bipartisanship that could exist among all people in Iowa. I hope we can get back to that and get back to talking with each other. Iowa Republicans and Democrats are on the same side. Ultimately, we're here to make sure the people of Iowa are successful and they live prosperous lives. I remember one time in 1997, during the inauguration of Bill Clinton, he came up to me and said, you had great access to this process because you lived in Iowa. That Iowa connection matters. And says, here you are, getting ready to have dinner in the White House with the U.S. president. And that's because of your Iowa connections. And he's right. Since then, even though I have not always had the most pride in the state of Iowa or the country, what he said about, because of an Iowa connection, having the greatest access to the political world of the United States is very true. And I'm very greatly honored to have that right. And I want to say my condolences to the Boswell family for their loss. Iowa has lost 2 of its favored sons in 2018. First off with Governor Robert D. Ray, and then now with Leonard Boswell. All of our elected officials in the state of Iowa, male or female, are a select chosen few, our beloved sons and daughters that we send to represent us in our state capital and in the nation's capital. We value the work that they do, and we take great pride in the work that they do in our name. We take a lot of pride in our voice in D.C. and in Des Moines and along the political spectrum of this great country. And that's something I learned from Leonard Boswell. And I think if everyone would stop and kind of look back at how Leonard Boswell did things, we would all be better off. My hat's off to you, Congressman Boswell. May you rest in peace. God bless. For everyone else here in Iowa, stay healthy, stay wealthy, and stay wise. And as always, stay classy. Peace out.